Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Movie Files. Morgan and I are here to give you guys our thoughts for the movie Blade Runner 2049. So, is he a replicant? Is he not? Do we get answers revealed in this movie? Well, you guys are about to find out. All right. So before we give you guys our thoughts of the movie, the overall likes, dislikes of the movie, we'll just kind of give you guys our experience with Blade Runner, the 1982 edition. So I'll just kind of start with, I remember seeing Blade Runner when I was younger, and just whenever it was on, I just never finished it, and I just always gave the excuse of like maybe I just don't get it. I wasn't just into it. I was too young. So many years have passed by, and I tried to continue to watch. I just never really got into it. But once the announcement of the new one was coming out, we wanted to check it out before we saw the new one, which we did earlier in the week. And I just come to the conclusion that I'm just not a big fan of the original Blade Runner, the 1982 edition. And I know there's 3 different versions of the film. We have the final cut. And I just thought overall the movie was kind of boring. Some of the characters were kind of unnecessary. Some characters, to me, like Roy's crew, was kind of misplaced. They were kind of in a different movie at times for me. And overall, too, I just thought that the relationships that were kind of built, especially with our main character, Rick Deckard and Rachel, I just thought that relationship was kind of bland. And overall, too, I mean, Rick Deckard was a detective, which he wasn't the best detective at his job. It seemed like things just kind of stumbled upon him. So I'll just say overall, I thought that the original one was okay. I understand with respect that this film is a cult classic. A lot of my favorite directors, actors, always give props, and they feel influenced by the original Blade Runner. So I can give it that respect. I know that in its time, 1982 was beyond its years, and if it wasn't for that Blade Runner, we wouldn't have what we have today. So I mean, that's just my initial thoughts. The first Blade Runner was okay, but I think this one was awesome. So I mean, what was your thoughts on the original Blade Runner?
I mean, I would pretty much echo everything that you had previously said. I am the kind of person, if a movie is like 2 hours or more, I get pretty antsy. So I was getting antsy in it. Like Elliot said, it was just a little boring for me. I myself had never watched it. I obviously had heard of it, but never watched the film, not even on TV. And I know Elliot, we've owned it for years, and he's tried to get me to watch it, and I never would until obviously now. So again, though, I think though for 1982, I understand why it is the classic in which it is. But same, I think Roy's crew, it was just a little cheesy. I think I say that a lot, but anyway. But overall, Harrison Ford is an incredible actor. And yeah, I just thought it was okay.
So yeah, I mean, as you guys can see, we weren't the biggest fans of Blade Runner 1982 edition, but we were pretty excited about this one. I would say that
I love Ryan Gosling.
Even not being big fans of the original one, when we heard the initial, announcement of it, I was a little skeptical because it's like another movie, brought back to the cinemas 30 years later. What are we going to get into? You have some hits and misses, but I mean, this one was, I was interested. What really piqued my interest was not only who was in front of the camera, Ryan Gosling and Harrison Ford coming back, and all the additional characters they added, but it was really behind the camera. Denis Villenueve he's my favorite director in Hollywood, bar none. I mean, his approach to film, as well as his cinematographer, Roger Deakins, they're like the dynamic duo. Like, they can't do anything wrong. I mean, we just saw Arrival recently, and I mean, that was, to me, and we didn't see it last year when it came out, but I mean, that's my favorite movie of last year. Arrival was phenomenal. So just the expectations from what we were given behind the camera really excited me, and then it was kind of like icing on the cake when we got Ryan Gosling and Harrison Ford coming back and everything like that. So I would say for me at least, the expectation levels were extremely high, and then when you get to trailers and the marketing and just seeing how visually stunning this movie was going to be, that was really where I was at for excitement levels.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so kind of getting into the movie here, we'll go into spoilers. So this is a spoiler review, guys. So I'll just kind of give you the basic synopsis of what we got from this film. So in Blade Runner 2049, it is the year 2049, and the story takes place in California. So with that being said, we're introduced to our character Kay, which is played by Ryan Gosling. Kay is a Blade Runner, and his job is to solely to take out old replicants or older models of the last phase of replicants, and that's where we're introduced to our first scene, which has Ryan Kay going on an investigation, taking out an old replicant, and in doing so, he finds a mystery box. Now, this box is filled with bones, which he's looking for answers for what those bones mean, what those remains mean, which then leads into our character Harrison Ford, Rick Deckard, and Kay getting answers for him. So that's kind of the basics of the story, and we'll get into the more into detail with our review here. But just from a storyline standpoint, I thought that just starting off bad with characters that I really enjoyed. First off, Ryan Gosling. I've always been a fan of Ryan Gosling, but this movie really kind of put him on. Just I can't think of a movie where he doesn't deliver a great performance, and in this one, he just does a phenomenal job. And getting more into depth, the things that Ryan Gosling's character was presented with, off the bat, the first 10 minutes of the film, it's revealed that he's a replicant. There's no questions around it. They just go right into it. He's a replicant because the replicant that he's taken out in the film, the farmer played by Dave Bautista, which is I'm so happy that he's now he's getting these awesome roles recently. But anyway, he tells him, how do you feel about killing your own kind? So right off the bat, they tell you he's a replicant. So I mean, the performance that he gives us, as it's revealed later in the story, is he a replicant? Is he not? Ultimately, he is. But just the line that Ryan Gosling was able to walk across, playing a character that is robotic, and since he doesn't really have that many emotions, he's not and I think that was a great part for him to play, because we needed a character that strung us along the story, and not having a character that's kind of like super emotional. He has fight scenes where he's not affected by a lot of things, but at the same time he does have emotion when it's needed upon. Yeah. So I mean, for you, did you think Ryan Gosling's character Kay was really well done?
And I think like in this movie, the older replicants, they used them for slave labor, and then there were wars and things like that, and pushback from them, and then they created newer models of replicants who were specifically made to obey. So I guess a better model.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, he did what he was told, but there was a battle between, and it goes throughout the movie. You start to second guess whether or not he truly is a replicant.
Right.
But as far as Ryan Gosling goes, one thing that I just love about him as an actor is he can be so many different people.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that's so cool. I know one of his bigger movies last year was La La Land, and it's just like night and day difference. It's just really cool to see an actor be able to adapt to a role no matter what it is. So kudos to Ryan Gosling. He is really amazing actor, and not bad to look at either. So.
Yeah, I mean, and to that point, of an actor that, we know Ryan Gosling, he's a big celebrity, but for someone to step into this role and you kind of forget that he's Ryan Gosling, he's the character Kay, it's all hats off to him. So another character that really worked for me was the character Love. To me, she stole the movie. Every scene she was in, whether it was with Harrison Ford or Ryan Gosling or other amazing supporting characters, Jared Leto, she stole the movie. I mean, her performance was just amazing. And I mean, we'll get to some of the bads in a little bit, but Jared Leto to me was hit or miss, but I mean, she was the true villain to me in the whole film. She was the true antagonist for the film for me. I mean,
and she really fit that new model replicant description of obeying her master, or whatever you want to call it. But that's what I really loved about the movie, was seeing Kay's dynamic and Love's dynamic. And they had a lot of similarities, but ultimately, once you finish the movie, you realize that Kay has maybe more compassion than Love did. But you do see Love, even though she is very villainous and very bad, you also see her have compassion at moments in the movie. So I really like to see, I mean, basically they were trying to show us the same character, but then, with differences. So
and I mean, again, the character Love, she stole the film.
She was so good.
She was phenomenal. Which then leads into another character that I was very surprised with, which was Joy, which was Ryan Gosling's Kay character's kind of android love interest. And it was such a cool dynamic for me to see those two different technologies. You have a replicant and then an AI kind of, computer-based generated program, how they interact and their relationship they were built. To me, it was much stronger than it was in the original one. As far as, I mean, there's two replicants. You had Rick, or we'll get to that, Rick being a replicant or not, but you had Rick being, let's just say, human, and also him interacting with the robot. But then seeing Kay interact with Joy, I just
basically
thought that was great.
Two robots interacting. I really enjoyed that love story much more than Rachel and Deckard. So it was really beautiful. They had some really great moments, and they meshed so well together. Ryan Gosling, and I'm not sure what Joy's name is in real life, but anyway, Kay and Joy, they really worked well together.
Great job.
Yeah.
And I've seen her in other roles, but this one by far was one of her best performances so far. So hopefully we'll get to see more of her. But I thought she did a great job playing the Joy character, which then leads to another character that I really enjoyed was Rick Deckard. We have Harrison Ford coming back playing his iconic role. He's always, he's a true superstar as far as movie superstars go. When you have a resume as Han Solo, you have Indiana Jones and Rick Deckard. He's a true superstar. But I thought that, honestly, like I said, not the biggest fan of the original Blade Runner, but I really appreciate Rick Deckard in this film as much more than I did in the original. Yeah. There's moments in this film which, again, this is a spoiler, he's introduced to Rachel again. We'll get to Wallace's character, but there's a moment in the movie where he sees Rachel again, and the emotional levels and the acting that he was able to bring to that scene was a slam dunk for me. There's moments, and people know Harrison Ford at this point in his career, he doesn't have to bring A+ performances. He's Harrison Ford. I love Force Awakens, but it was Harrison Ford playing Harrison Ford and not playing Han Solo, in my opinion. I love the movie, but I thought in this role he really brought more emotion than he did in the original Blade Runner with Rick Deckard's character, and I thought he was phenomenal.
Yeah, I loved him. He was really good.
Yeah.
And Kay and Harrison Ford, they don't interact as much as I had originally thought they would, but their interactions were really good.
Mm-hmm.
I will say one thing for me, which I understand that this movie was very, very long, but it took a while to finally get to Rick Deckard, and I was just anticipating, like, when are we going to see him? When are we going to see him? So the excitement was there for me, but it did take a while. He is still in a good chunk of the film just because it is so long, but he was really good. And then a supporting actor, I love that dog he had. He was dog, I don't know what happened to him, but I like the dog and just his dynamic with Kay.
Yeah, so those characters there really brought the movie to life, really guide us along to a great story, which then leads to characters that I really didn't connect with, and there was really just one for me. I don't know how many there were for you, but I thought that Jared Leto, I'm a big fan. Jared Leto is a great actor. He's been in some really great movies that I really enjoy, but I thought he was this very Wallace's character. Jared Leto plays Wallace, who's essentially the Tyrell of the original Blade Runner. He creates the replicants. He also did a lot of other things. It's described in the film that he is responsible for bringing back replicants, helping the world with their food struggles, and then also creating other technologies like the character we get from Joy. So he is, a Steve Jobs type of, just a once in a lifetime type of characters. But for me, the way he acted, it was just kind of, again, I'll give him this. I know that he's just beyond his years. He's on another level as far as his intelligence. So I guess you wouldn't expect him to be a normal character, but I just thought that the Wallace character was just a little too one note. What did you think about Jared
I think
character?
I actually, although I enjoyed this sequel of Blade Runner more than the first one, I actually enjoyed Tyrell's character more than Wallace.
Right.
I just felt more connected to him. Wallace, just to me, he just seemed like a terrible person. I don't know.
He wasn't in the film that much.
He really wasn't.
In the scenes
but
that he was
the things that he did in scenes, I'm just like, this guy's so mean. But I don't know. I wasn't really feeling him either.
Yeah, I would say out of all the performers, I thought that everyone brought what was on the page. They brought it to life, but then they brought an extra layer to those characters. But I thought Jared Leto just kind of brought.
Well, you would think that Wallace's character would be bigger than what it was in the movie, honestly. So maybe he kind of got gypped like he did in Suicide Squad. I don't know.
We'll get, there's so many additions of Blade Runner, the original. Maybe we'll get a 4-hour cut of this film where we get more of his character. But I thought I wasn't say he was terrible. Jared Leto did, his job. But I thought out of all the characters, he was probably the weakest link for me, which then leads into things that I really enjoyed about the film. I'll kind of start with, again, like I said up top, what we got from behind the camera with Denis Villenueve and Roger Deakins was phenomenal. I think they deserve an Oscar. From a directorial standpoint, from a cinematographer standpoint, this film
was beautiful.
Yeah. They really, you feel immersed in this film. You feel like you're part of the environment, which was phenomenal. I mean, I wish we would have saw it in IMAX and maybe a second viewing. We'll check it out in IMAX. But I mean, just from what we did see, I cannot wait to see this again.
Yeah, and everything was great, but there was this one scene, and I believe you see it in the trailer. I'm almost positive, but there's like a desert scene. I guess you would call it a desert.
Yeah, there was a reaction. I think there was there's many times in a film where you find out that there was blackouts. There was just things that went bad, and it was, I think it was a certain district that was just,
Las but Vegas, it looked like a desert. So I guess that goes hand in hand with Las Vegas. But anyway, it was beautiful. I mean, it was just shot so well. And I think Elliot had mentioned earlier, we had just recently seen Arrival, you know, same deal. And you could definitely see similarities in how it was shot. And that cinematographer is just so gifted and really does a nice job visually. It was just visually stunning. It really was.
Yeah, those two together are just phenomenal. And I'm just looking forward to whatever they have next to give us. But also going to themes that I really didn't like, or things I liked about the film. The score was great. I mean, you really felt like you were in that original. That was one of the things I did like about the original Blade Runner was the score. It's just that immersiveness and just that feeling that you get in that world. Also, you know, just the overall theme of replicants. You know, I think that this movie really expanded on what Ridley Scott did in the 1982's edition and just really kind of built on that mythology and really kind of laid the groundwork a little bit more in depth than the original for me, as well as just the themes of replicants, you know, kind of going more beyond the film. I really think that the labels, you know, what replicants, you know, they're labeling people the way they were presented in this film. You know, they were looked down upon. When a human you see Ryan Gosling's character, Kay, walking down the halls of the LAPD, and the humans look at him as hardware. You know, I really think that message that they're giving us is this: why do we have labels? If we all have emotions, we can show emotions of anger, happy, joy. We're the same. You know, who cares what our labels are? I really thought those themes really kind of stood out for me in this film, which was great. And also too, just again, the performances really were great. I can't say more about what we got from all the actors and actresses in this film. I mean, they really brought their A game. And those are just some of the things that really stood out to me. And I thought that just from an emotional standpoint, this movie resonates more with me than the original did, just because of, again, they really gave you what it meant to be a replicant and how they're looked upon as humans. And humans just being, as we are as humans, we look at certain things, we undervalue things, we label things once again. And I thought that the film really did a good job of that. I mean, I totally agree. And something else that I liked and didn't like at the same time was just the length of the movie. But let me tell you, like, do not be deterred from seeing this movie. It's basically 3 hours. Don't not go because it's so long, because if they would have done it in 2 hours, it wouldn't have been as good as it really was. They really took their time. Elliot calls it a slow burn. But anyway, they took their time and they did things right, and it was really a great movie. It really was. And I just, again, performances were incredible. And then I think they were trying to dig deeper into that replicant. I mean, it's 2049, so I mean, this the idea of what. Again, you know, stepping outside of the film, behind the lens, and really what the directors and writers trying to say is like, what are we as a society? You know, where are we headed? You know, it's, you know, during 1982, this is what they predicted in 2019. You know, minus the sci-fi aspect, just the idea of, you know, what we look upon as certain people and what we see people as, and again, labeling things and just looking at them as that label. You know, so I just, you know, I really thought that was really well done in this film. So another question I want to, you know, pose to you was, you know, as I mentioned earlier, Harrison Ford was brought back, and, you know, Star Wars, you know, one of the things I really liked about this film, again, was, you know, you have cult classics, you have, you know, people consider things masterpieces, and then they rehash it, they bring it back to life 20-30 years, and we've gotten that a lot lately in Hollywood. And I'll just use Force Awakens for example, which I love Force Awakens, but, you know, it was one of the negatives that people said about Force Awakens was that it was New Hope. It was the first, you know, Star Wars Episode 4. It was just kind of a rehash. It was a lot of the same themes, kind of the same storylines. But I thought the thing that this film did better than what Star Wars did was, you know, it did bring elements from the first one, but then they really kind of laid the groundwork. This is their own film. So one of the things what I'm getting at was, with this film, I think that for us, we saw Blade Runner. And I'm looking at a couple of reviews. I know some people are saying that you don't need to see the first Blade Runner to really appreciate this one, which I want to get your opinion. Did you think that seeing Blade Runner enhanced the second one for you, or do you think you don't even have to see the original?
I think it did enhance, and I think I kind of got an interesting perspective because, we were in a movie theater that probably was like 100 seats, I would say. And there were probably 15 people altogether. There really weren't that many. And when you're like in a space with like all these seats, but then somehow two random people just sit like in the seat right next to you, and you're like, that's kind of weird. There's all these seats. But anyway, there was a couple that was sitting next to us. And during the movie, it was actually like maybe halfway through. Elliot didn't really hear it, but I think I was like on the right side to hear. I'm assuming the husband had said to the wife, he said, "Have you seen Blade Runner?" It was so loud. But anyway, he's like, "Have you seen the first one?" She's like, "No." He's like, "I haven't either. I never finished it." So it was interesting knowing that they did not see the first one, and it took them a longer time to piece things together. There were certain things that like I had thought, and I don't know if this is too early for me to get into this, but Kay's character, he thinks he is the son of Rachel and Deckard. And later it's revealed that he is not. But I figured it out probably like 30 minutes before. Well, actually, they didn't even figure it out until the end. And like I just heard them saying like, "Oh, wow." So anyway, I think they finally figured it out. But anyway, my point is I know for a fact they didn't see the first one because they said it. And it took them longer to wrap their heads around everything. They were having a pretty lengthy conversation throughout the movie, and it was just interesting hearing that. But I will say I would suggest actually viewing the first one before seeing this one. I just think that it can be done that you can see it without seeing the first one. But I think that you're going to be able to connect the dots and really understand a whole lot better.
And appreciate the payoffs too.
Yeah. So anyway, I just with that experience alone, I would say watch the first one before you go see the sequel.
Right, and that leads into another thing that I want to talk about as well. I talked about it as my positive, but I really wanted to stress the emotional journey that you're taking on with Kay. As we said, this is full spoilers, but it's revealed right off the bat again that Kay is a replicant. But then, like Morgan said, there's you find these bones, and it's revealed that these are the bones of Rachel from the original one. And as obviously you put two and two together, Rachel and Rick Deckard were in love, and they have a child, which then alludes to the storyline being that Ryan is piecing together the story and piecing together everything, but then he has a memory of a young boy, which we think to be a boy at the time, finding a toy which has the markings of 6, 10, 21, which then leads to Ryan remembering this memory, Kay remembering this, and he just assumes that he was the boy, that he is now a human. And that's where really the emotional roller coaster, again, due to Ryan Gosling's character being so robotic, and then really showing those emotions of thinking that he's a human, and his whole life thinking he's a replicant, but he's thinking that he's a human. So
and he's scared because at this point he's like, well, great, he's like now I'm going to be hunted, and you feel that fear. It was really cool.
Yeah, that performance there was really a standout for me. Again, Kay's character was really great. But one of the things I would say that I really want to stress on again is just applaud to the story writing, and just knowing that again that they were able to. I don't think it really even we'll get to our who's a Ryan Deckard or Rick Deckard being a replicant or not, but I think that at the end of the day I don't think it matters. I think the message really behind this film was if you can share the same emotions and have the same type of impact on the world and do the same things, then why put labels on things. I really think that really
and I think this film opened it up even more. So like before you had your replicants and then your humans, but then in this film you had your humans, your replicants, and then you also had AIs. And I thought that was really cool too. Again, just going back to Kay and Joy's relationship, you saw two different robots essentially. have emotions, and I just thought that was kind of cool. So it kind of brought in an additional element that the first one did not.
Yeah, and I guess too, we'll just continue to talk about positives, but we'll go into the negatives here. For me, and this really is a negative. This is just me being silly, but I wanted more of Love's character. Because she was just so great, but in every moment she was in the film, she stole it. But I mean, I really can't think of any negatives other than like I said, Jared Leto was kind of hit or miss at moments for me. But I mean, for you, was there I think was the length, right? The pace.
So Elliot says that I watch too many Disney movies,
yeah,
so
I'm
too accustomed to like 98-minute films.
Right.
And it is kind of true. I'm not gonna lie. Like I was getting antsy.
Mm-hmm.
There were certain parts where I was kind of like huffing and puffing, like. And then Elliot, he has his little Fitbit, so I was like, time. What time is it? So anyway, but I will say that after the movie was over, I did appreciate the amount of time that they spent on it. I do think that it needed to be almost 3 hours to 2 hours and 45 minutes. Otherwise, I don't think they would have been able to piece everything together, accomplish what they did. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, that's a small negative. I mean,
that's
for
very
you,
small.
like I said, a 3-hour movie for her is like an eternity. But I mean, and again, guys, this is a 2-hour, 45-minute film. But to me, it didn't feel that way. I wanted more, believe it or not. It was great. So I guess there really isn't too many negatives we can say about the film. But I do want to touch on a couple other things. Again, I think that me personally, I think this film for me, I enjoyed 2049 much more than I did the original Blade Runner. So for me, it was a better film in many different ways. But again, you have to show respect to the original because for the original, it wouldn't be a thing. So, I will say that another thing I want to touch on, again, was we touched on Harrison Ford. But again, I really want to say that I thought that he did a phenomenal job in this film. But I just thought it was just kind of funny how, again, Harrison Ford being who he is, being Han Solo, Indiana Jones, and Rick Deckard, it's just funny how, like, when they bring him back to these films, he has a kid. Kylo Ren, you had Shia LaBeouf's character and Crystal Skull, and in this one, he has a kid. I just think that's kind of funny how they bring him back. But anyway,
maybe that's in his contract.
Maybe he has to have a child to carry the torch. But getting to our final thoughts here, do you think we need a sequel? Do you think they need to continue the story, or as far as, and what I mean by that is, I think they bookend on, Kay's character. He served this purpose, and he does die peacefully at the end of the film, which I think they close his storyline. I don't think we need any more Kay's background, what have you. But Harrison Ford's Rick Deckard character, do you think we need a sequel to explain the evolution of replicants reproducing with humans? Do you think that needs to be explored more, or?
I guess that could be cool. I don't think it's necessary, but I do think it could be cool.
It could be explored. I mean, and that's where I'm kind of in the same boat. I think that is something they can explore. They definitely have the world to do so. Because, I mean, keep in mind, this is just California that we've been exposed to. I mean, you have New York, what happens in this, the districts in New York and just
other
around
countries,
the world. How is this, so I can definitely see them continuing the story, even, I mean, in a Netflix format, maybe, I mean, Netflix is phenomenal and bringing phenomenal work to the smaller screen. So, but I mean, I would say this particular story doesn't have to be continued, but I wouldn't be mad at them per se if they did bring it back. But again, if they bring it back, I would want some of the, it doesn't have to be the same writer and director. It would be great, but I mean, again, they have to show this respect with what they did with this one. So, final thoughts here. I thought that the film did end perfectly. I don't think that the ending, so we'll get to the ending here. Like I said, Kay character does die, and then Harrison Ford, Rick Deckard, is brought to his daughter that him and Rachel brought in. Did you need any more from that last scene? Did you think they needed to interact? How did you think the ending of the film kind of wrapped up?
I thought it was good. I thought everything was tied together. Great. I enjoyed it. It was fine.
And I guess before we leave, because this is always a big debate, is Rick Deckard a replicant or not? Well, I just want to know your opinions. Do you think he's a replicant? To me, I don't think it matters, because again, I think that the characters are the characters, but I just want to put this out there. What do you think?
I think he's a human. When we first watched the first Blade Runner, there was a scene where his eyes glowed, and they said that it was a reflection off the mirror. I don't really understand that. I don't see how it could have been a reflection, but I do think that in this one, it is confirmed that Rachel she was a replicant.
Yeah, they found her serial number.
They found her serial number, so she was for sure. Which I think in the first one it was like kind of debatable.
Sure.
Even Harrison's Ford character, wasn't sure right off the bat.
Right.
But anyway, with them reproducing, I would assume he's a human.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at too. So there's two thoughts. So you have the original writer of the film, or the writer of the book. He says that Rick Deckard is a human, and which is funny because the director Ridley Scott says that he's a replicant. And like I said, I haven't seen all the versions of Blade Runner, but I know the original, the theatrical version. There's like a voiceover, and it alludes to that he has a wife and this, that, and the other. So it's kind of tiptoes on the line, is he a replicant or not? But like Ridley Scott, he says that his Rick Deckard is a replicant, but for me, I think he's a human. Again, just from the simple fact of reproducing. I was going to say, he does age, but again, we have Dave Bautista's character. He was an older replicant. So I don't think that matters, but I think that he is a human being. And it is brought up in the film. Him and Jared Leto, Wallace have a conversation, and Wallace tries to put the idea that, maybe Rick Deckard is a replicant, because maybe the reason he fell in love with Rachel is because, he was programmed to fall in love with her. And the same for Rachel. She was programmed to reproduce. So I think, and like Harrison Ford says, he knows the truth. So I think that he is a human.
At the end of the day, though, I think that if he is a replicant, will we ever find out? Probably not, because apparently it's a good thing to keep that under wraps.
Right, right. But I think at the end of the day, if he's a replicant or not, and I know a lot of people go back and forth with it, I don't think that it really matters, because again, I think the characters, if they are replicants, they are showing more emotions than some of the humans, and then again, going back to just, what they can bring. I thought the characters were just phenomenal. So, again, great script, great performances, phenomenal movie, shot well, directed well, acted well. I thought that, from our rating, we'll give our ratings. I'm going to go ahead and just say it's a 9.8 out of 10. It is. I don't know what people consider a masterpiece, but for me, when I was watching this film, I just felt a part of the world. I felt the characters. I felt everything that they had to deliver for us. I don't have any negatives. So, it is almost perfect film for me. So again, I give it a 9.8 out of 10 Blade Runners, as we would call it for this rating scale. What about you?
I'm gonna have to give it a 2. I'm just kidding.
Like 2 out of 2. Yeah.
2 out of 2. No, I'm kidding. I'm gonna give it a 10. I thought it was really good.
10 out of 10,
the original, I would probably give a 7 out of 10, but sure. This one, 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. So a masterpiece for you, a sci-fi classic.
And I will say, maybe take it with a grain of salt. I don't watch a ton of sci-fi movies,
sure,
but I do think that it was incredible. Yeah.
Awesome. So 10 out of 10 for Morgan, 9.8 out of 10 for me, 10. Which is pretty much 10. But I'll leave it at 2 points off. But again, guys, thank you guys for watching us. But we do want to know your thoughts. From fans of the original. I'm talking about diehard fans. We want to know what you guys think. People that haven't seen the original, we want to know what you guys think about 2049, as well as just overall thoughts. So again, we thank you guys for watching this video. Go ahead and like the video and share it, and as well as subscribe to our channel, because we have so much awesome content for you guys. And also follow us on our Instagram account. We are at Movie Files on Instagram. And again, guys, thank you for tuning in, and we will be back Tuesday for our review for American Horror fans. We'll be back on Tuesday, and we'll see you guys soon. So take care.